Great. Well, as said, my name is Muriel Owen, and I went out for what would have been my junior year of high school at Marblehead High School. I'm a rising senior, and I was based in Lucerne area, Switzerland. Thank you so much, all of you, for sponsoring me to go. I really appreciate everything. And as said, I returned at the end of March due to COVID. Otherwise, I would have returned July 4th. And I'm going to talk about some people. They're not just any average people, but rather some very special people to me who I met during my exchange in Switzerland. The first group of people is my first host family, Familie Schumacher. I stayed with them for about 6 months, so the longest time with all my host families. Pictured here are Urs, my host father, Jeanette, my host mother, and then my host siblings, Timo, Lorena, and Simona. I really appreciate everything they did for me. They really feel like a second family. We still keep in close contact, and they just really allowed my experience to be so great. I really am truly indebted to them because they showed me everywhere around, and they really took me in like one of their own. Here pictured are my host siblings at the Aletschgletscher. I really just appreciate all my host siblings. We got along great. They were just kind of like, it's like living with your best friends almost. We really were all so close, and I had a special bond with each of them. We kind of just would hang out all the time and just have a great time, talking and just playing games and, going traveling with the family. It really was interesting also for me being so accustomed to a family of 3, because in the US, including myself, we're only 3 people. And in Switzerland, I was with 6. So it definitely kind of forces you to sort of, be willing to compromise and just always be prepared. I never wanted to be the reason why the family was running late or, oh, Muriel forgot something. So you make sure that you're, ready to go and always just kind of like a participating member of the family. And that's just how it is in such larger groups and in families in general, which I'm sure is something I'll take with me, for my college years when you're living with other people in a dorm, etc. Here are my host parents, who I mentioned before, Urs and Janet. Urs is very much the pragmatic Swiss, kind of what you think of the stereotypical Swiss person. He really cares about order and organization, very orderly, really respects his things and his family. Always made sure we were in a very clean environment, a very orderly environment. Cleaned his car probably once a week. So it has its extremes, of course, but just very, got me really set up in Switzerland with, my finances and my phone, everything like that. So he really allowed for a very easy transition. I never felt like I had to figure out those things on my own in a foreign country. Johanna is very much the opposite. They are very different, but I think that's what allows them to be such great parents and such a great duo. Johanna is much more of the spontaneous, kind of go with the flow person. She's a very active person, very, cares about health, which I really appreciated. She cooked, the best meals. I really miss her cooking. My lunch and dinner, she'd always cook them. And I think that's kind of what allowed me to sort of fend off the dreaded exchange weight gain in the beginning, at least. She just lives a very active lifestyle, would always have something planned for the family and for me. I was able to go hiking quite often, biking, running, going out to see various lakes. And I really appreciate everything that she did and how she always made sure that there was, an activity planned for the weekend. I was never bored sitting at home, to sit in my wallows of homesickness. And that's really truly because she, put so much effort in making sure there was something always on the agenda. On to my host sisters. They really are like truly sisters to me. We were a great duo. Pictured here is us at a New Year's party and then at an outdoor film. But it started to rain, hence the sort of poncho type white coat. They're just a great group of girls. Lorena's 20 and Simona 17, so we were very similar in age. Lorena and I, since we're both the older siblings, in our families, I think we were very similar with our characteristics and whatnot. Lacked a bit of the common sense, so it was an interesting experience for sure when you have 2 people who don't know what they're doing. But I really appreciated the advice. She also was just such an open perspective on life and on the world. She's traveled quite a bit, and so it was really great just hearing all her stories and kind of her experiences, and it really pushes me to want to see more of the world. Simona was great in the sense she had just come back from a Rotary Youth Exchange to Canada. So she had been through it all. She was a great mentor, really helped me in that first week dealing with homesickness. She'd been through it, so she knew how to help me in the best way, and that was really great to have, and especially my first host family. She was very goofy, as you can see in the photos, and just really had a great, very bubbly personality. And I really hope when I host future exchange students that I can be just as good a host sibling as she was to me. I really appreciate all the help she did. Here's my host brother Timo. He was probably the goofiest of the group. Definitely, spontaneous, kind of like to push the boundaries, but sometimes you need that. It was really just great to kind of, see his take on life. He was very, just never took life too seriously. And that's something I actually really appreciate, as I feel I went into my year a bit, stern. Okay, everything has to be serious to get work done. That's not always the case. You can always have a positive attitude and kind of a great demeanor, and you can still be a productive person and, contribute to the work environment. It doesn't always have to be so harsh and cold. And so I really appreciate, his work-life balance and just how he always, kind of pushed me to have a bit more fun and kind of go out my comfort zone. We had a lot of fun hiking and just kind of seeing Switzerland. He also allowed me to really have that great group of friends in the beginning, would always invite me out with him. And just, being similar in age, I think was a great bonus as well. It really allowed me to have that close connection and bond with everyone in that family. Now on to Grossi, who also goes by Lisbeth. She was the grandmother in my second host family, the mother of my host mother. And she lived right next door, so she came over quite often for dinners and breakfast and games. Pictured here, she can be seen playing a very common Swiss game called Brandy Dog. And she was very competitive, Brandy Dog, great Brandy Dog player. I always try to be her partner because I knew if I wasn't, I would definitely lose and feel her wrath. She just really brought such a positive, little competitive, little feisty energy, but I really appreciated that. She was really that grandmother role that sometimes you miss, because you don't have your relatives with you on exchange, of course. But she really is just like my grandmother, a great idol, a great person to look up to, a great mentor. And, she had her own battles, has her own battles with, her health and illness and whatnot, but you would never know by looking at her. She always came over with such a positive attitude, a bright smile on her face. You would never know the struggle she was facing, even if they were quite intense, as well as her husband. But you never would know by looking at her. And she was just such a great, light in everyone's lives, especially mine. What I really appreciate her for actually is that she taught me to cook, and, she had a great deal of patience. I went to my exchange year. I could barely cut a tomato, if I'm being perfectly honest. And she turned that right around. And I think my mother is probably the most appreciative of that of anyone. Pictured here are some gnocchi that we made, as well as some fried dough strips that were for the carnival season during the Fastnacht in Switzerland. And she just was so patient, for someone who really had no skills. Most people would probably become quite frustrated with me and my mistakes. But she would just kind of roll with the punches, see what mistake I was going to make next, said it's okay, move on to the next thing. She really taught me all the steps, all the basics, and was just so incredibly patient. I think I've never met someone as patient as her. She dealt with all my things in worries and would just move on. I even mixed up sugar and salt one time, and that seemingly didn't faze her. So she was truly an unbreakable personality, and I really appreciate not only the cooking tips she gave me, but just kind of, the role she served as a mentor in my life, especially in Switzerland. Now on to Yuchi, who also goes by her English name of Apple. She was a Rotary Youth Exchange student from Taiwan, who lived in the similar area as I did in Lucerne. She's pictured in the blue coat in the center, and then next to me while we're shaking some cream for butter, as we just milked some cows at that day. She was just such a, heart of gold, truly pure person, just so wholesome, so cute, which I don't want to be, demeaning. She's just as old as I am, but she really is just such a cute girl, and just, you always see her and you want to smile. And I really appreciate how, what a positive impact she had on my life. She was so determined also. I pretty much have never seen anyone tackle the ugly beast that is German grammar as well as she did. She came into Switzerland with, limited German knowledge, especially coming from, a Mandarin language. It's definitely certainly different, debatably more difficult when you, start with English. And her German by the end was just amazing. She put in that hard work, and I really was great to see her growth. And it pushed me to want to, also better my language skills as well. What I really appreciate about Yuchi, however, is just she goes and takes that extra step to tell people who she cares about that she cares about them. And, I'm sure everyone around can say, you have your people, your loved ones and dear ones, but you don't always make that extra effort. At least I didn't, to tell them how special they are to you and how much you care about them. But she always made sure to do that. For example, with this Christmas card she wrote me, she also pays attention to all the details. For instance, she drew herself on the cover, but wearing a sweater that I always wore. And the main takeaway from this note, it's probably one of the sweetest notes I've ever received from a non-relative, was that she stated that she learned so much from me, but I really feel that I've learned far more from her. and how she, she goes through life just kind of very smiley, very positive. And the main thing is that she takes the extra step to show people that she cares about them and that they mean a lot to her. And that's something I definitely want to continue to do in the future. Now on to Yo-Yo, also Johanna. She was a Lucerne native, born and raised in Switzerland. She was my classmate at the beginning and has now become a great friend of mine. We're actually still pen pals. We even write handwritten notes. I know, can you believe it? I sent her one last week. But I really just appreciate how she disregarded the common cliques, the groups that, we even see at Marblehead High School. You're used to your group of people, your little bubble. Not everyone always wants to reach out, but she disregarded that completely, was super open, invited me all around Switzerland, anything she was going to, she'd ask if I want to come along, which I really appreciate. It can be hard in a foreign country to kind of make that step and ask other people, oh, do you want to hang out with me, the exchange student who has no clue what's going on? And she allowed that process to be very easy, as she was, always willing to invite me places. I was able to sleep over at her house on multiple occasions. Her family was almost like a second host family in a sense in that way. And I just really appreciate our friendship, and I hope I can visit her very soon as well. And also a great group for me was really Rotary in general, of course. Before this exchange year, if you had told me what something about Rotary, I would have thought the thing you drive around. I wouldn't have thought of Rotary International, which is quite unfortunate actually. So I'm really thankful that I was able to discover more about this amazing group of people across the globe. But Rotary Switzerland, Liechtenstein in District 1980, especially my Rotary Youth Exchange counselor, Marcus, who's the only male pictured in these photos, were just a great help, great support system, especially in a country where I didn't know anyone, didn't know the customs necessarily. I felt like they had my back the whole entire time, felt completely supported and safe in their hands, which is of course what you want, especially what your parents want when they send you abroad. And my main thing with Marcus, we would have often conversations and meetings sort of as a check-in throughout the year just to see, how I'm doing and whatnot. But they would generally, kind of drift to other topics, talk about a lot about life and politics. He taught me a great deal about the Swiss political system and just sort of Europe in general, which is the conversations, some people are not always willing to have, of course. But it's always very respectable. I also really appreciate, when you're young, you're always taught to respect your elders, but sometimes as a child, you feel that that's not always reciprocated. But that was never the case with Marcus. We always had, conversations, and I was so intrigued with everything he had to say, and I felt that he was just intrigued with what I had to say as well. He really seemed to care what my opinions were, even if I still am just a kid. And I really appreciate that, he took the extra time to ask me questions and, hear my opinion. And it's just nice to kind of see something that doesn't always happen. And just Rotary in general, especially Switzerland, they put on great events. This is a picture of one of our Rotary weekends in the beginning with all the inbounds from various countries. There's always something planned, always something fun to do. And it was a great learning experience, hearing all the other students and just kind of from the Rotarians and their experiences. It really, makes me really love this program, love Rotary in general. And I can't rave about it enough to other people. And I think Rotary Marblehead, along with Rotary Switzerland, have really allowed me to, love this program as much as I do and have such an amazing experience. And last but not least, it's going to come across as a bit corny, but I learned from myself. I made plenty of mistakes, which are great learning experiences, but I also did some things correct, and I think that was a huge takeaway. I really went into the year with very little, confidence in myself and my abilities. I would kind of base a lot of things on luck. I got lucky, that's why this happened. And, this person helped me out. It wasn't any of my doing. When that wasn't always the case. Of course, other people help you on the way and luck does come into play. But I think that I really didn't give myself enough credit before I went on exchange. And, was kind of very self-deprecating. I would kind of disguise those statements with jokes. But at the end of the day, I was, digging at myself all the time. I really was my worst enemy. And I think that was sad for everyone to see. Especially my host father he actually came to me, my first month while I was abroad, and he pulled me aside and he had noticed that I was so self-deprecating and hard on myself. And it made him quite sad to see that. And he really pulled me aside, I don't like all these things you're saying about yourself. I wish you kind of, have more faith in your abilities and your skills. And I think that really hit home for me, really, hit close that, okay, I pick up that, of course, my mama and my family has picked up on that, but now other people in Switzerland are even realizing how, down on myself I can be at times, and that's not a good way to go through life. And I just noticed, that was a huge change, especially by the end, that I'd really, felt confident in my abilities and realized, I can do this. I can actually, live somewhere on my own and, where I don't know anyone. I can do something in school and it's for my own doing. And I really appreciate that, I was able to kind of get that skill, I'll put it that way, through this experience. Also, I think allowed me and pushed me to be much more open to trying new things. I was definitely had a fear of failure, would say no to a lot of new experiences. On the left image, I can be seen milking a cow, which was something I never thought I would do. And just kind of, seeing new things. I was always afraid, oh, I'm not going to try it, something I've never done. I'm afraid I'll fail. And why even try if I'm not going to succeed at the first time, which is a terrible mentality, of course. And I think because I felt, okay, this is my chance to really, work on that and see everything that I can. And that's, during my exchange year, I felt I should just really say yes to everything that comes my way and see where it takes me, because you never know, you fail, but you try again, or you succeed at the beginning at something you love. And so that was really a great experience for me, from, going to new places or hiking or trying new foods and new customs. That really is something I took with me, and just saying yes to anything that kind of comes your way. Just in general, those are like huge takeaways. Of course, the connections and the culture and the experiences, but something you can't buy, you can't really, train, are that personal growth. It kind of just sort of comes based on a certain experience. And Rotary Youth Exchange really allowed me to have that proper experience to work on myself in a way that I probably more subconsciously than anything else. But it pushes you out of your comfort zone. It certainly pushed me. And I think that really allowed me to come back a much more confident woman, a much more, open and just sort of positive person that more people want to be around and that I want to be around and see in the future. And so I really appreciate that just experience in general. And I'm so grateful to all of you and the Marblehead Rotary Club for sponsoring me, to Rotary in general for allowing such an amazing opportunity to exist. I know this wouldn't have been possible with any of you guys' help. You guys really are, just can't say thank you enough. I'm so grateful. And I know these are experiences I'll take with me for the rest of my life. I'm sure of it. And thank you, Alex, specifically. You helped me get involved from the beginning, taught me all about it, let me get my application scrambled together somehow. The very end, finding that last flight to really get me home at the very last minute, because I was a bit stubborn in that sense. I really appreciate everything you guys in the club do and everything you've done, Alex, District 7930. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Muriel. That was awesome. Let us open it up for questions. Anybody with a question, raise your hand, unmute yourself. Go for it. Tanya.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your presentation. You were very self-confident, and I think you've done a lot of personal growth in your year abroad. But my question is, I know Lucerne is on the Italian side of Italy, or Switzerland, I'm sorry, or Switzerland, and they speak Portuguese there. So how do you communicate with the host family? With that German, French, Italian, or English?
So yes, as you said, Switzerland has 4 national languages of German, French, Italian, and Romansh, which is like spoken by less than 1% of the population. Since I was in Lucerne, that's in the German part. I spoke with my host family in standard German for the beginning, but they actually have a Swiss German, which is quite different from normal German. And so eventually I picked up on Swiss German because I was in school and whatnot. And so now, by the end of my experience, I actually speak with a Swiss German dialect, which my mother, who's German, finds quite amusing. She pretty much can't take me seriously half the time or understand me. It's sometimes quite that different, but yes, it was German or Swiss German. I tried to really never speak English with anyone there.
Did you have a chance to travel outside of Switzerland, within Europe?
I did one quick day trip to Germany. And of course, you're very much on the border of, France and Italy when you go to the south or French parts. But as I did leave earlier, a lot of the travel that I was going to do outside of Switzerland, unfortunately, wasn't possible as I had come home or due to travel restrictions. So it was mostly in Switzerland, but I was able to see a great deal of Switzerland. And that was, a huge gift to me.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Emmett, go for it.
Muriel, I just wanted to say, I don't know if everybody, but I'm sure they did. You are an exceptional speaker. Exceptional. It's incredible to see someone at your age speak so fluidly. So great. Great presentation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely, I was not so confident with my speaking skills, but I think, exchange helped me with my confidence. That's a huge role. I also have done a very similar, almost same presentation of this one before, so I think I have that on my side. Practice really helped me, but thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it.
It was incredible. And then my question is, when are you going to go back? Not if.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm not entirely sure. I really am planning, to go back as soon as possible. My main plan is to go next summer, if that's possible. I also am looking at, universities and colleges abroad, and in the region where I could, visit my host family often. So hopefully very, very soon.
Well, put it on your calendar so you do it. When someone gets older, if you don't plan it, it won't happen. But it looked like you had an incredible experience. So great job.
Thank you.
Maybe do a little skiing in Switzerland, while you're there.
Yes, I was able to ski quite a bit, which is great. I love skiing in, the U.S., but Europe is definitely a different ball game. I went to St. Moritz and in Bern area, Graubünden and everything. So I really got a great Swiss skiing experience. I'm really grateful for my host families for bringing me there.
Muriel, what was the experience for you like going to high school abroad?
It was quite different than the U.S. school system. My main comment always is it's all these small differences. For instance, here you change classes, you're with a different group of people every class. There you're with that one set of people, and it was a much smaller school. And also, because there were 70% girls, I was basically in an all-girls school, which for me was quite new. So you really have that one group for every class all the time, but that really allows you to have a close bond from the beginning, which was different to here. Also, the classes, you just have far more classes, which can sometimes be a bit overwhelming, especially as it was in German all the time. The main difference, I'd say, here, at least at Marblehead High School, it's very much, school spirit. Everyone's very proud of their school, proud of where they go. And, with the school, there's sports tied in, there's activities, there's clubs, all these things are tied in with Marblehead High School. And there it's very much, this is an academic setting, you go for school and you go home. Any other activities you do, they're not tied with the school. So the sports you find with your town. And so you're kind of in all these other groups. And at first it was challenging, but I also appreciate certain elements of that being very much an educational setting. And that's kind of it. That was probably the biggest difference for me.
Wonderful. Congratulations. That's an incredible experience. You really put your all into it.
Thank you so much.
Other questions? I guess my main question is, how many pins do you have on your jacket?
I've never counted. I'm actually wearing it, as I'm sure you can see, but I have quite a few. Probably could have gotten more had I, stayed a bit longer, attended some more events. But there's definitely very many. I try to organize them. So like South American countries, European countries, Asian countries. I can pretty much tell you where every pin is from every person. All the people in my certain region are up here. So I have Norway, Yuchi from Taiwan is this gold pin here. You definitely collect a lot along the way. Going through the airport with that jacket was a bit, clanky, but it works out.
I think you've completely become Swiss, because only a Swiss person would organize the pins on their jacket by geographic region. Well done.
Great.
Well done.
Beautiful.
Any other questions? Muriel, this was absolutely wonderful. I very much appreciate your presentation, and I'm just got myself organized. You're going to be the first recipient we have parting gifts.
Thank you.
Doing the presentation, it's a Rotary glass with it can be used for hot or cold chocolate. You could make cold frap, and I got the recipe in there. And if you privately send me your address, I'll bring it over to your house tomorrow.
Will do, definitely will do. I have lots of Swiss chocolate products that could, fulfill that, I'm sure.
Well, that's what, So thank you very much.